You gave your heart, your time, your soul a broken bar, and she played with it like it meant nothing. Now you're left with silence, with memories echoing in empty spaces. But silence alone isn't power. No contact isn't enough. If you really want to rise, to heal, to crush the ego that took you for granted, you must do more. There comes a time in every man's life when he realizes that walking away isn't the end. It's only the beginning. Yes, going no contact shows you have boundaries. Yes, it puts space between you and the chaos. But silence, if not filled with purpose, becomes another prison. A man who simply disappears without transforming, without growing, is not healed. He's hiding. And hiding is not strength. Rising is. This is not about revenge. This is about respect, self-respect. And the hard truth, she will only feel the weight of your absence when your life becomes undeniable. You were vulnerable. You opened up. You gave her the kind of trust that most people only dream of receiving. And what did she do? She mistook your kindness for weakness, your loyalty for desperation, your presence for convenience. But your actions reflect her character, not your worth. Pain like this is heavy. It twists your stomach. It keeps you up at night, replaying conversations, searching for what you missed. You want her to see what she lost. You want her to feel it. You want her to understand she was playing with fire disguised as love. But the best revenge is not anger. The best revenge is becoming untouchable. It begins with silence. That first moment you decide to stop chasing, stop explaining, stop hoping for validation from someone who kept taking your presence for granted. It feels like power at first, a small flame in the dark, giving warmth to a cold, broken heart. But that flame can flicker and die if it isn't fed. No contact is not an act of revenge. It's a boundary, a self-created shield between your sanity and the source of your chaos. But it's not the healing itself. It's only the doorway. A man who walks through that door must decide what he will do with the solitude that follows. Will he sit in the dark and call it peace? Or will he use that silence as a forge? Disappearance without change is emotional limbo. Many believe that going no contact is the end of the story, that once they've stopped talking, they've already won. But the truth is harsher. Simply removing yourself from someone's life doesn't undo the damage they caused. It doesn't restore your confidence. It doesn't rebuild your self-worth. The trauma still lingers, hidden beneath the silence, waiting to resurface at the slightest trigger. If you go no contact but remain the same person inside, broken, reactive, still tied emotionally to her decisions, so you haven't healed. You've just paused the pain. Transformation is the process of rewiring your soul. It's hard. It's lonely. It requires more than silence. It demands self-mastery. Healing begins when you stop needing her to understand. A major shift happens the moment you stop looking for closure. As long as you're waiting for her to apologize, to admit what she did, or to miss you, you are still emotionally chained. No contact may have ended the conversations, but not the inner dialogue you keep replaying. True transformation starts when you accept that you may never get answers, never get validation, never be understood by her. And yet, you rise anyway. This is where strength is fragile, not in what she sees, but in what you no longer need. The moment you no longer crave her recognition is the moment you start becoming free. The quiet is where the work begins. Silence creates space. What you fill that space with will define your future. Some fill it with distractions, parties, rebounds, scrolling, escapism. But that's not transformation. That's numbing. If you truly want to reclaim your soul, you must sit in that quiet. You must feel the ache fully, understand it, confront it. Every memory that stings, every moment that haunts you, it's there for a reason. The pain is a teacher. The stillness is the classroom. Transformation demands that you face the version of yourself that allowed chaos to stay. Not to blame yourself, but to rise from it wiser, sharper, and more self-aware. The man who transforms becomes unpredictable. When you go silent and disappear, she might think she knows your next move. She expects the old patterns of the texts, the check-ins, the weak moments. But when you begin to transform, you become a mystery. You're no longer the emotional puppet she once controlled. Your moves are no longer based on her validation. You're moving according to your mission, your peace, your inner compass. And that's what shakes her ego more than silence. The realization that she no longer knows you, that the man who once bled for her has become a version she can't access, can't anticipate, can't influence. That's real power. Every day of discipline is a hammer on your old self. Transformation isn't glamorous. It's not Instagram quotes and playlists. It's getting up when you don't feel like it. It's dragging yourself to the gym with a heavy heart. It's choosing water over whiskey, solitude over chaos, purpose over comfort. Each day you choose discipline, you are breaking the mold of who you used to be. You're smashing the version of yourself that tolerated disrespect, that begged for love, that accepted less. This isn't about her anymore. This is about you becoming a man who commands respect first from himself, then from the world. Emotional control is your new armor. You will be tempted. There will be days you want to reach out, days when nostalgia makes you forget the damage, days when a memory creeps in and makes you miss the feeling of her, not the reality of her. But this is where transformation becomes real, not in the easy moments, but in the storms. When your emotions rise and scream for action and you choose stillness, that is strength, not suppression, but mastery. You feel everything, but you are no longer a slave to those feelings. You direct them like fire through a forge, not like a wildfire burning everything in sight. Silence becomes powerful when it's filled with results. She might not hear from you, but she'll hear about you. She'll feel your progress in the way others speak about you, and the way your presence changes when you enter a room, in the energy that no longer seeks approval. That's when silence becomes loud, not because you're trying to get back at her but because your transformation is undeniable. You are not the same. The silence isn't passive, it's strategic. It's where you built your empire, not to prove her wrong but to prove to yourself that you were never broken, only buried. Your body is the first battleground. When the world feels out of control, your body is the one place you can reclaim. Training your body is not just about looks, it's a declaration of discipline. It's the act of showing up for yourself every day, even when you're hurting. It teaches you resilience, it anchors you in routine. It reminds you that you are still capable of building, of improving, of rising. Every drop of sweat becomes a message. I'm not done. I'm not defeated. I am under construction. The transformation of the body becomes the mirror of the transformation of the soul. Purpose replaces obsession. She used to be the center of your world. Every decision revolved around her attention, her reaction, her affection. That's not love, that's obsession. When you begin to transform, that obsession is replaced with purpose. You rediscover your passions. You realign with your mission. You start building not just a life without her, but a life that reflects your highest potential. And slowly, her absence becomes irrelevant, not because she didn't matter but because you matter more. You become addicted not to her love, but to your growth. That shift is everything. Your circle tightens, but strengthens. Transformation requires pruning. You start to see who around you fuels your growth and who drains it. Old habits and friendships built on distraction or weakness start to fade. You become selective, not arrogant but intentional. Your circle might get smaller, but it becomes more powerful. Real men, real focus, real brotherhood. You stop seeking validation from crowds. You start building with people who understand what it means to rebuild from ashes. This isn't isolation, it's elevation. You rise by aligning with those who refuse to stay broken. Stillness is no longer emptiness, it becomes your advantage. At first, the silence feels heavy, but over time, you stop fearing it. You start enjoying your own company. You think deeper. You move slower. You react less. And in that stillness, you begin to see the patterns that led you to her in the first place. You recognize your triggers. You understand your wounds. You start to rewire the way you view love, relationships, and self-worth. Stillness becomes a space of power, not weakness. You are no longer reacting, you are strategizing. No longer bleeding, you are building. From that space, you don't just heal, you evolve. She no longer has a key to your emotional state. When you were emotionally entangled, her words could lift you or crush you. Her silence could ruin your day. Her presence could shake your sense of identity. But once you transform, she loses that key. Your self-worth is no longer tied to her perception. Her opinion holds no weight in your world. Whether she misses you, hates you, replaces you, it doesn't alter your peace. That's not apathy, it's mastery. You don't need her to change for you to heal. You've built something she can't touch. your inner kingdom. The memory of who you were becomes fuel you won't forget, and that's a good thing. The memory of the man who tolerated the bare minimum, who begged for crumbs, who lost himself in someone else's chaos. So that memory becomes your fuel, not to shame yourself, but to never return to that state again. It's a scar that reminds you of your journey. You look back not with bitterness, but with clarity. You know who you were, you honor the lessons, and you keep moving forward with the vow to never shrink again for someone who couldn't see your worth. Transformation is slow but permanent. This path is not about overnight success. It's slow, it's quiet, it's frustrating. There will be setbacks, there will be moments of doubt, but if you stay consistent, if you choose growth over comfort every single day, the change becomes permanent. It embeds into your identity. You no longer act like the man who once broke you. You become someone new. Not a version, not a mask, but a man reborn through fire. And when you look in the mirror, you no longer see pain, you see purpose. Power begins when you no longer seek permission to rise. The most profound shift you can make after heartbreak is to stop waiting. Stop waiting for her to notice your pain. Stop waiting for her to realize your worth. Stop waiting for an apology, a message, a sign that she finally understands what she lost. When you finally stop waiting and start moving, you take the first step toward becoming the man who no longer lives in her shadow. You stop asking life for permission. You stop asking her for closure. You give it to yourself. And that's when your energy begins to change. She once had emotional access and now she watches from a distance. She used to know how to pull you in. One text, one look, one memory, and you were hers again. Her words could unmake your strength. Her approval was your oxygen. That was her power, and not because she was strong, but because you gave her the keys to your peace. But the man who evolves silently begins to lock those doors. He takes back those keys, not in anger, not in revenge, but in quiet realization. She no longer gets to define your highs or lows. She can look, she can wonder, but she cannot touch. That distance, emotional and spiritual, is what cracks the ego that once fed on your need for her. Reinvention is louder than retaliation. The strongest message you can send is not a clever comeback. It's not posting to make her jealous. It's not pretending to move on while still secretly breaking inside. The loudest statement you will ever make is becoming someone she cannot recognize, someone she never thought you could be. When she sees you not just smiling, but glowing with purpose, when she hears about your growth, your discipline, your new peace, it shakes her. Because the man she hurt is gone, and in his place is a version she cannot manipulate, cannot guilt, cannot summon with memories. Reinvention silences everything. Her ego was fed by your emotional dependence. As long as you needed her, her ego had a home. Every time you reached out, every time you broke no contact, every time you showed that her presence still controlled your emotions, it was fuel. Even if she didn't love you, even if she didn't plan to stay, the knowledge that you were still emotionally hers kept her power intact. But when you grow into the man who no longer flinches at her silence, no longer rakes for her attention, no longer seeks her approval, her ego begins to starve. You don't need to say a word. You don't need to make her jealous. You just need to stop needing her. You become unreachable when you elevate your standards. Becoming unreachable doesn't mean you're hiding. It means you've risen above the level of drama, manipulation, and emotional chaos that once entangled you. You've raised your standards. You no longer entertain breadcrumbs. You no longer chase potential. You no longer confuse chemistry with character. And because of that, she can't reach you, and not just physically, but mentally and spiritually. You've grown past the games. You've built boundaries she can't cross. Your silence is no longer a phase, it's a standard. And that shakes the foundation of the ego that once thought you'd always come back. Your presence used to be taken for granted, and now your absence speaks volumes. At one point, she thought you'd always be there. She assumed your loyalty would survive any mistreatment. That no matter how she treated you, you'd still care, still show up, still wait. But the day you withdrew, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that's the day her ego felt the void. Not because you wanted revenge, but because you finally respected yourself more than you needed her. When your absence is filled with progress, with joy, with peace, it becomes undeniable, and she feels it, and not just the lack of your attention. but the absence of your emotional vulnerability to her power. You stop being an option the moment you stop tolerating crumbs. There's a silent war that many men fight, the war between wanting to be loved and accepting less just to feel something. That war ends the moment you say, no more. No more chasing. No more half-effort. No more being an option. That declaration is internal. It doesn't need to be posted, shouted, or explained. When you start treating yourself like a priority, others follow or fall away. And when she sees that you no longer respond to the same bait, that your self-worth no longer depends on her validation, it crushes the image of control her ego held. The man who doesn't react holds all the power. She may test you. She may try to trigger a response just to prove she still matters to you. But when you stay calm, when you stay grounded, when you feel the emotion rise and still choose peace over reaction, you win. That self-control is terrifying to an ego that thrives on emotional instability. She wants to see the man she used to control react like before. But when you don't, when you're indifferent, when you're too focused on building yourself to even flinch, her influence dies, and with it, her illusion of power. Time does not heal it, transformation does. You could go no contact for 6 months, a year, even more, but if you don't change in that time, nothing heals. Her ego survives on the hope that you're the same, that one day you'll circle back, that your silence is temporary. But when the time is spent transforming, not just waiting when your body is rebuilt, your mind is sharp, your spirit is calm, that's when she starts to see she lost access not just to you, but to a version of you that no longer exists. That realization doesn't just hurt up, it destroys the part of her that thought you'd never rise. She can't find you because you outgrew her chaos. Growth creates distance. The more you grow, the more you realize how much chaos you tolerated, the more peaceful you become, the more intolerant you are of drama, of games, of emotional manipulation. And because she hasn't changed, she can't follow you into this new chapter. She may reach out, but you no longer respond. She may try to reconnect, but your energy repels dysfunction. She may think she still knows you, but the man you've become doesn't fit into the version of the story where she held the upper hand. Unreachability is not physical, it's energetic. You can still live in the same city, still cross paths, still be one message away. But if your energy has shifted up, if your values, your intentions, your goals have ascended, then you are no longer within reach. Her attempts to reconnect don't land. Her old tactics fail. Your silence is no longer a tactic, it's your new frequency. And that frequency no longer vibrates on the same level as the one that once tolerated her presence. She senses it, even if she can't explain it. And that energetic distance stings deeper than physical absence ever could. The new version of you reflects everything she ignored. As you rise, as you build, as you evolve, you begin to radiate everything she failed to appreciate. Your discipline, your loyalty, your focus, your softness wrapped in strength as she begins to see it, maybe through others, maybe through time, but by then, she can't access it, because the man you are now would never tolerate who she was. And that's what crushes her ego the most. Not that you changed, but that you changed in a way that makes her unworthy of the new you. Respect replaces revenge. You're no longer looking to get even. You don't want to hurt her. You don't need to prove anything, because your evolution has replaced the desire for revenge with a sense of internal respect, and that respect radiates. It tells the world that you've outgrown pettiness, that you've traded vengeance for vision. That inner strength, that quiet confidence, that refusal to play the same game again, it disrupts her ego in a way anger never could. You're no longer fighting the past, you're leading your future. Your peace becomes her mirror. Peace is powerful, not the kind of peace you post, but the one you carry. The peace in your eyes, the peace in your decisions, the peace in how little you talk about her. That peace becomes a mirror, and when she looks into it, she sees the chaos she brought, the man she lost, the calm she could never create. That's not about making her feel bad. That's about showing the contrast between who you've become and who she still is. And that contrast humbles any ego that once believed it was the prize. No message hits harder than your evolution. You don't need to craft the perfect message. You don't need a comeback or a clever post. You don't need to say anything. Your life says it all. When you walk into a room and your energy demands attention, when people speak of your discipline, your glow, your ambition as she gets the message. She understands that the man she once had access to is gone, and the version that now exists, he would never allow her back in. She expected silence and not strength. She thought you'd go quiet, wait, suffer, eventually return. What she didn't expect was your strength, the physical transformation, the emotional control, the spiritual discipline, the way you restructured your entire life to remove toxicity, to elevate beyond past mistakes. That's what shatters the ego. The realization that you didn't just survive without her, you thrived. That her absence didn't break you, it revealed you. You become her lesson and not her memory. Some people become fond memories, others become painful regrets. But when you rise after betrayal, when you grow into someone unrecognizable in strength, you become a lesson she carries into every future relationship, a reminder of what happens when ego ruins something rare, and, unlike regret, lessons last, they stay, they whisper. And every man she meets who doesn't measure up to the man you became after here, that's when she realizes what she lost. Your evolution denies her the closure her ego craves. She may never admit it, but at some point, she will seek closure, not because she wants you back, but because she wants to know she still matters. She wants to see if she still has power. She wants to confirm that her absence left a scar. But when you've truly transformed, when you've closed that chapter with grace, not bitterness, you deny her the validation her ego craves. Your silence doesn't just say you're over it says you've risen so far above, you can't even hear the echoes of her chaos. You were once emotionally available, now you are emotionally elevated. The difference is not just that you feel less, it's that you feel wiser. You are still capable of love, of connection, of depth, but no longer with those who toy with it. Your heart didn't harden, it matured. It stopped giving itself to people who mistake openness for weakness. And that shift from available to elevated creates a version of you she can't reach, can't manipulate, can't anchor down. That version is your true power. Your unavailability becomes the consequence she never saw coming. Pain is loud when progress is silent. In the early days of heartbreak, betrayal, or loss, pain screams. It fills the room, it walks with you, it wakes you up at night, it demands to be felt. But the mistake so many make is staying stuck in the echo of pain, trapped in the narrative of what happened. And while they relive the story, they forget to write a new one. Pain may have a voice, but it's not the final chapter. The final chapter belongs to progress. And when your actions become louder than your emotions, everything begins to change. The world respects transformation more than trauma. You could tell everyone your story, how you were hurt, how unfair it was, how deeply it broke you. And for a moment, some will listen. They may even sympathize. But over time, they stop caring, and not because they're cruel, but because life keeps moving. They want to see what you did with the pain, not how much it hurt. The world doesn't admire wounds that never close, it admires scars that came from healing and rising. So instead of using your story to gain pity, use it to build purpose. Let your growth be your legacy, not your suffering. Every step forward is a rebellion against what tried to break you. Progress is not just movement, it's defiance. It's looking at what was meant to shatter you and choosing to rise anyway. When you wake up and train, when you study, when you build, when you evolve, you are not just improving, you are fighting, quietly, powerfully, stoically. You are refusing to let the past define you. Each drop of sweat, each early morning, each sacrifice becomes a silent statement, you didn't win. And that statement doesn't need to be spoken. It is felt by everyone who sees your transformation. Silence the need for validation through personal excellence. You may want people to understand your side. You may wish she would see your pain, that they would acknowledge how much you gave. But in truth, validation is temporary. Even if they say sorry, even if they admit they were wrong, it won't change what you lost. What changes everything is when you stop needing to be seen and start choosing to be undeniable. Excellence, not explanation, is your redemption. When your work, your mindset, your health, your aura glow louder than your heartbreak, the world listens, even if the people who hurt you never do. Let your discipline become the language your pain cannot speak. Pain doesn't care about your potential. It only wants to keep you still, replaying what happened, overanalyzing the past, drowning in regret. But discipline interrupts that loop. It forces your body to move before your mind is ready. It demands action when emotions beg for stillness. And in that friction, something incredible happens. Pain begins to quiet down, not because it disappears, but because your routine becomes stronger than your rumination. Discipline doesn't heal you, it transforms you, and that transformation eventually becomes your freedom. The most powerful response is becoming unrecognizable to your past. She may remember the version of you who chased, who begged, who waited. They may remember the man who doubted himself, who lacked boundaries, who broke down when life turned cold. But progress changes your fascia not physically, but energetically. The man you become when you commit to growth is someone your past won't even recognize, and that unfamiliarity is power. It means you've outgrown their memory. You're no longer the character in their version of the story. You've rewritten the narrative. And now, you walk forward not for revenge, but for rebirth. You are either proving your pain right or your power real. Every day, you choose a side. You either live in a way that proves your pain was stronger than your purpose, or you rise in a way that proves your power was real all along. Pain wants you to shrink, to play small, to stay hidden, but your power knows better. It calls you to rise, even in pieces, even when it's slow, even when it doesn't make sense, because progress isn't about speed, it's about direction. And when you aim forward long enough, eventually the pain can't keep up with you anymore. Your pain is not a prison, it's a passport. The same pain that tried to trap you can become your reason to fly, but only if you use it, only if you stop sitting in it and start moving through it. Pain gives you depth. It teaches you to see differently, to feel deeper, to appreciate strength, but it's not meant to be your identity. When you stop wearing it like a badge and start using it as a tool, you become dangerous in the best way. You become someone who cannot be shaken by storms, because you already survived one. The people who doubted you don't need explanations, just silence and results. Let them talk, let them assume, let them gossip. While they waste energy on your past, you're building your future. That's the Stoic way. No defense, no need to correct them. Just keep moving, keep improving. One day, they'll hear your name again, but not in stories of sadness. They'll hear it in stories of success, not because you told them, but because your name is now attached to excellence. That shift at that moment when your results echo louder than their assumptions is how you win. Pain made you aware, real progress makes you alive. Pain wakes you up, it shows you what matters, it reminds you of what you were ignoring. But don't confuse awareness with aliveness. Being aware of the problem is not the same as solving it. Feeling deeply is not the same as living fully. You come alive the moment you turn those feelings into forward motion. The moment you lift more than you could last month. The moment your mind feels calmer, your spirit more centered, your decisions sharper. That aliveness can't be faked and it can't be ignored. Let your progress be so loud they forget how you suffered. There will come a time when people won't talk about how broken you were, they'll only talk about how far you've come. They'll forget the heartbreak, they'll forget the failure, because all they can see is the empire you built from the rubble. That's not by accident, that's not magic, that's consistency. Every day, when you show up despite the pain, when you stay focused despite the noise, when you do the work no one says, that's how you earn a future too loud to be ignored. The weight of your past becomes fuel when you stop fearing it. You can carry your pain as a burden, or you can use it as a barbell. The same weight that used to crush you can now build you, but only if you choose to lift it differently. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, watch me heal, watch me grow, watch me become the man who turns pain into power." That shift from fear to fuel is how progress begins. And once it starts, it doesn't stop, because every rep, every step, every small win becomes momentum. She doesn't need to hear from you, she needs to hear about you. There's a difference between reaching out and being reached for. When you're stuck in pain, you want her to know, you want her to regret. But when you're in progress, you don't reach back, you rise forward. And eventually, someone tells her, not because you tried, but because you became. Your glow, your energy, your namia, it finds its way back. But by then, you're too far ahead to care. That's the ultimate power. She doesn't hear from the man she hurt. She hears about the man she no longer has access to. The loudest message is growth without explanation. You don't owe anyone a speech. You don't have to explain why you disappeared, why you stopped calling, why you cut ties. Your progress is your explanation. The fact that you chose to heal instead of argue, evolve instead of react, speaks for itself. You no longer tell your story, you live it, and the version of you that emerges from that is undeniable, not because he says more, but because he became more. That's the message. Growth is louder than grief. Your identity must outgrow your injury. If your pain becomes your personality, you've already lost. Your story must evolve. Yes, what happened to you matters, but who you become after is what defines you. Pain may have shaped the beginning, but progress must shape the end. The man who stays wounded stays small. B.